We're great.
Polarizing Joe Buck.
That's a nice thing to say. At least people have feelings about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad they know I'm there.
Yes.
I said that in Kansas City when they had a Facebook protest and online march to get me to not do the ALCS, which I got behind, by the way.
I saw that.
And tried to make sure that it came to pass, but Kansas City let me down, and I had to actually do the series.
See, that's why I kind of idolize you. I really do, because if somebody did an online protest or petition to get me off Yankee games, I would go into a 3-4 year depression where I'd be in a fetal position and not get out of bed, and you kind of just made light of it.
Well, you have to. I mean, if it's not me, it's going to be the next person doing it on the national side. You have the unique position of being the Yankees, voice of the Yankees on television. You do a great job, and you're there representing fans that are living and dying with every pitch. And it's really a baseball issue to me more than it is in the NFL, although I think it's kind of creeping into the NFL more and more lately, where I think everybody now just thinks that if you're not with me, you're against me.
Right.
And it doesn't just have to do with sports. I mean, politics, everything's so polarizing, everybody's so ready to get ticked off at everything everybody says that you just can't win that game. So you can't take it personally, because when you show up doing a game and you're doing the Mets and the Royals and Alex Gordon hits a home run, I've got to scream and yell and get excited. Mets fans aren't used to hearing that against the Mets, and they think, well, this guy doesn't like the Mets, which is insane. And then the opposite happens, and Kansas City fans, that whole protest happened because they thought I was too nice, throwing rose petals at the feet of Madison Bumgarner for what he did in the previous postseason, which I would do every time. I thought that was one of the great performances I've ever seen. So it doesn't matter. It's all just noise, and you just go about doing your job.
Well, it's a compliment in a way, because it means you're doing your job.
Yeah, I think somehow if I've had the ability of making every fan base think I don't like their specific team, I think therefore meaning that I would like the opposing team somehow against theirs, I've kind of done my job, especially in baseball. People are living and dying pitch to pitch, so I'm glad people care. Like I said, I'm glad they know I'm there, and all I can do is protest mildly and say that I don't, quote-unquote, hate any team. I just want to see a good game.
Now, you mentioned it's less of a situation than the NFL, but I'm wondering, does Aikman go through it in a similar fashion the way you go through it in baseball when he's got to call a Cowboy game?
Yeah, he does. I get it from St. Louis fans. I get looked at sideways after the Cardinals are in a postseason series. And I come back home, and people are like, why do you hate the Cardinals? Your dad's rolling over in his grave after all the team's done for your family. It's like, okay, go to San Francisco and see how they think about what they think about me and the Cardinals out there. Like I go to bed in my Cardinal PJs every night. So it's just, I get it. But, yeah, Aikman, people in Dallas go, how can you hate the Cowboys so much? And he's like, this is insane. And he and I get it from Green Bay fans, like, why do you hate the Packers? And it's like, of all the teams where they've got Aaron Rodgers, I would really venture to say we've probably never said anything negative about Aaron Rodgers ever. But that perception's out there, and you just, you kind of smile and go do your job. The most of the normal people really don't care.
Did you read the latest stuff that some Packer fans are upset with Aaron Rodgers because he's dating Olivia Munn, and Olivia Munn was on a show?
I saw that.
Yeah, and she said they actually have sex, and that's why he's not playing well.
Yeah, well, and that's a crazy notion that they do that.
Joe Namath did okay.
Yeah, he did fine. I'm friends with obviously Alex Rodriguez, and this is so name droppy, but the whole Kate Hudson year, that was the one year he was phenomenal in the postseason. Somehow she got credit, which she laughs about. And, people just look for anything to hang their hat on and say, well, this is why this guy's not playing with. This is proof this guy hates my team. I mean, that's just kind of where we're going as a society. It's not just sports.
Sources have told me, though, they did abstain in 2009, so that's what the reason. Yeah, that's what I heard.
That could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never gone there with her or him.
All right, so you do the Super Bowl, you do the World Series, and you're not busy enough, and now you have a talk show called Undeniable. What is this?
Yeah, well,
where do we see it?
First of all, I think I'm not sure where you see it. God knows the world needed another talk show, but it's actually on the Audience Network, which is it's DirecTV. It's DirecTV original programming. It's channel 239, and it's also on AT&T UVerse. And I think it's a really worthwhile show. I wasn't interested in doing the typical show, and really, Michael, it's not too much unlike what you do with Center Stage and what you and I did when I still think about that interview and enjoyed it so much, where you get a chance. You talked to me at that time about the perception that I hate the Yankees or that I don't like New York, and you have a chance to sit there and actually talk about it and go through it. And that's what we found with these interviews. These guys sat out there for 2.5, 3 hours, and it was Jeter, and it was Aikman, and it was Michael Phelps, which is a dark, deep interview, and Abby Wambach, who was phenomenal, and George St. Pierre, and Torrey, and you realize that if they're not there to talk about yesterday's game, and they're not there to talk about, Jerry Jones, not there to talk about Greg Hardy, he's there to talk about how he grew up and what it was like when he shoved all his money into the center of the table and bought the Cowboys, and he was flat broke. Then you realize that these guys really want to talk about it. And it was a ball for me to do. And I'm not really a huge part of it. I'm just diving in and trying to guide it. But these athletes are just going. And it was fun. We did 13. We're going to do 7 more. And it starts tonight on the Audience Network with Jeter.
Well, the one that I'm excited about as a hockey guy is Wayne Gretzky, and I've always been in awe of him and got a chance to interview him. How did you find him to be? Because of the names, not that there's a lot of controversy around the names, but he seemed to be the one guy that doesn't really have anything negative to really dive into. Did you find that?
Well, I do. I think that because I've known him socially. I know a lot of, guys with the St. Louis Hockey Club, and he was here for a brief while. I don't know anybody that's ever said a bad word about him. He's he's literally the nicest superstar athlete you could ever meet. And, most hockey guys are like that anyway. And then you see somebody with that success that's just a regular guy that's pleasant to people. You almost don't believe it. But you're right. I mean, there's undeniable, and then there's kind of the Wayne Gretzky or the Michael Jordan, where there is no argument. Wayne Gretzky's the greatest hockey player ever. And when you start going into it with him, and you realize the jealousy that was there with other kids on his team when he was so young, and he was 6 years old playing with 12-year-olds, and he had 200-plus goals in a season, and the way his parents got treated by other parents, and how they were dreaming up rules to disqualify him from play because he was that much better than everybody else. You realize that these are all people, despite how we hold them all up, that are flawed, at times scared, human beings like all of us. And then you dive into what it was like to achieve the greatness. That was the fun of it.
Now, the debut show tonight is the Jeter Show, right?
It is, yeah. And as well as I do, all of you guys know, that he can be a tough nut to crack. And it was a challenge. And I will tell you that as we got through the interview, about halfway through, his shoulders kind of dropped, and he let his guard down, and he was engaged with the audience, and he was playing to them. And we got into the rumors and the dating stuff and all that. And he had, this is me saying it, but I think he had a ball sitting out there talking about his life and his career. And I'm proud of it because he went into the rumors himself and felt comfortable enough to start talking about the gift basket and to talk about, do friends have to leave their cell phones when they walk into his apartment?
So is any of that true?
Well, no. And it's so funny how he went through it. And he talked about how he had to convince his mom that it wasn't true. We're all conditioned. If you read it, it's been fact-checked and it's true. Well, that's obviously not the case anymore. And he was laughing at it to the point where it was like a real moment, and you could just see that he wasn't bothered by it because it's just so ludicrous. But I did say, let's just say it was true. What would you put in the gift basket? And then we went off from there. So it's fun and it's good. And at the end of it, I called him a bitch on the air.
What?
Yeah.
For what? Why?
Because at the end of each show, I asked kind of 5. It's kind of based like Inside the Actor's Studio, but I asked 5 off-the-wall questions that just you would ask at a party of friends, and as you're all sitting around drinking wine or something. And I asked him, And he was giving me the stiff arm, and I said, just quit acting like a little bitch.
Oh.
And he laughed and did like a knee slap, and I was like, thank God it wasn't a Joe slap, like coming across the seat at me. So he was that relaxed, and that's how it felt like you could do that. Even though all those years that I've spent with you guys in at Yankee Stadium, I never really knew him that well. What I knew, I really liked, but it was that comfortable. So that's what I'm proud of with this interview.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because the thing I always say about Derek, and I've known him since he was drafted, they brought him up to the radio booth that day, is that if you knocked on his door, he would talk to you for 3 hours through the screen, but is never inviting you in. It sounded like he invited you in.
Yeah, and it took a little while. You know, he was a little thrown off at the beginning because Casey Close didn't tell him that it was in front of a studio audience. And there's about 200 people there.
Right.
He's like, oh, man, I didn't know. And, you know, he is so detailed and so in control that if there's an element there that he's not expecting, it throws him a little bit. And I'm telling you, Michael, he was fantastic. And, again, I'm just jumping in and out. I'm not asking, you know, multi-layered questions. I just want to guide it. And these people are talking, and I was I was thrilled that he said yes. And I'm proud that he's our first guest. I mean, I don't think you can start any better.